is the Pacific. This was their blueprint, carefully planned, ruthlessly executed, bluntly reversed. Behind, our stepping stones. Some captured, some bypassed. The Solomons, Bougainville, New Britain, the Gilberts, Macon, and Tarawa, the Marshalls, Inuitak, Kwajalein. Isolated are Rabaul, the Carolines, and Truk, former nightmare of the Central Pacific. But one more step is needed to provide bases within bombing distance of Tokyo. The Marianas are a must.
The softening up process begins as the big boys of the Far Eastern Air Force drop 2,500,000 pounds of bombs. Battleships fire salvos into the area of Tonopah, 6,000 tons of steel, 100,000 40-millimeter shells, 70,000 rounds from the big guns, 12 million pounds of punishment. LCVPs move toward the beach. 5,000 yards from shore, they turn, retrace their steps. They are empty of landing troops. This has been a diversion. 1,000 enemy forces spread out, so they cannot concentrate on our real objectives. The sky is ours. 4 days ago, a 225-plane fighter sweep of carrier-based aircraft surprised the Japanese in the Marianas and destroyed 150 in the air and on the ground. As our first waves of Amtraks near the beach, the planes moved their points of aim inland, maintaining a 100-yard area of minimum safety between us and their explosions. The Japanese play no favorites. Their artillery, mortar, machine gun, 75 millimeter, and small arms fire is everywhere. All 4 assault battalion commanders of the 2nd Marine Division become casualties in very short hours. On Red Beach, the 6th Marines suffer heavy losses. Some wounded waiting for evacuation become twice wounded. An abandoned enemy tank suddenly comes to life. Scores repeated hits on following waves of Amtrak. On Green Beach, a Fetna Point, the 8th Marines come up against a series of enemy pillboxes. On Yellow Beach, at a Gingan Point, the 4th Marine Division catches it. Our wrecked Amtrak congesting the beach plus enemy action forced the withdrawal of the LVTs, carrying with them many machine guns and much ammunition and equipment. We will be short of communications equipment for 3 days. Enemy 75s fire at us from the front. 2 bypass mortars from the rear. Planes silence the mortars. LVTAs from the Army's 708th Amphibian Tank Battalion act as decoys, saving many of the Marines in the troop-laden Amtrak. On Blue Beach, the 23rd Marines advance to the town of Sharon Pinoa. Resistance is light. It is seized. and they pass on to the Phase 1 line. We have trouble getting our tanks ashore. One company loses 10 of 14 to high surf, enemy action, and wet wiring. Their remaining 6 are sent to another beach. 5 are lost in deep water. 1 reaches the shore. 5 arrive out of 20. Finally, 14 are accumulated and are sent to help the advance near Afetna Point. 5 enemy tanks contest the advance. It is ruled no contest.
D-Day evening found the 10,000-yard beachhead punched a maximum of 1,500 yards inland. Artillery was up and firing. Tanks and division command posts were ashore, but the situation was far from good. The Japanese still dominated the height and had plenty of artillery and ammunition. Our lines were not integrated, and an effort to close a serious gap in them was unsuccessful.
Their counterattack is well organized, launched in battalion strength. When it is beaten off, 700 Japanese are dead around us.
But we were worried. Our progress had slowed too. We had not closed the gap in our lines or gained the heights, and their artillery fire was weakening the effectiveness of our tanks. Casualties had reached 3,500. We threw our lone battalion from reserve to combat, and all our troops were committed. If we slowed to this pace, the entire operation was in jeopardy.
On D3, the Army Division captures Aslito Airfield and prepares to move against Nafutan Point. Inland, the Marines prepare to attack every one of the myriad strong points which house the enemy positions. 500, 790, 600, Topocho, the Four Pimples, Tipo Pali. Rocket launchers unload their cargoes with telling effect. This cliff dominates the approach to Mount Topocho. Attempts to move great numbers of troops in the face of its fire would be impossible. Another route must be found to the top. From an observation plane, a road is seen which is not visible from the ground, and we put it to use. One day. 2 days. 3 days. 4, 6, 8. 10 days of battle, and enemy tanks charge out from the town of Saipan. They do not rejoin their units. On June 26th, we mop up Kagman Peninsula. This shortens our broad front, provides excellent terrain to build an airfield. We have conquered 6 miles. It has taken us 11 days. Somewhere ahead, in a cave, on a cliff, in a valley, Admiral Nagumo waits and sees the rising tide of destiny that will destroy him. on Tipo Pali still holds out. It continues to defy us for days. The Four Pimples, Flame Tree Hill, Radar Hill, 721, 767, Kirikiri Gulch, and Paradise Valley. In this misnamed sector of the Inferno, Nagumo has his headquarters. We whittle away. 12 days. 13. 14. 17. 18. 19. 20. 21. 22. Rugged by day. A nightmare of infiltration, banzai, and hand-to-hand combat by night. Each wounded means the loss of 9 fighting men. It takes 8 to carry him to the rear.
In combat, you sense things that you can't always prove. Before the invasion, I had selected the spot where I felt the banzai charge would be made. On D-Day plus 22, all things pointed to its readiness. In the late afternoon, I personally advised my corps of the possibility of a suicidal banzai charge. When it came, it was the most destructive I ever saw.
At 4 a.m. on the morning of July 8, 1944, General Saito's farewell message is read to his troops. Elsewhere on the island, Admiral Nagumo kneels, facing toward the east. The sacrificial knife. 3 honorable words. After 2 years, 7 months, and 1 day, the backwash of Pearl Harbor has inundated its attacker. Thus inspired, 3,000 well-organized and well-directed enemies advance across the railroad right-of-way. American outposts are scattered and overrun. The 1st and 2nd Battalions, 105th Army Infantry, are overwhelmed by sheer weight of numbers. Observers on the heights behold a strange sight. Marching behind the charging riflemen come the halt, the sick, the injured, men on crutches, men in bandages, men without hope, come forth to die. Batteries H and I, 10th Marine, 2nd Division, face the assault with 105mm howitzers. On the enemy comes. The Marines cut their fuses to burst at 150 yards, then 100, then 50, then at muzzle point, but still the enemy comes. Hastily, the crews decommission their weapons, grab rifles, and retire to fight as infantry as their position is overrun. Then company clerks, messmen, command post personnel, cooks, bakers, messengers, and bandsmen. Fighting Marines first, specialists second. All grab rifles, machine guns, grenades, and retake the lost territory. The banzai lasts until noon. By actual count, the Army lists 4,311 enemy dead, and we have lost 500. Ratio, 8-to-1. We move into the tedious job of mopping up. Only Marpy Point remains to be taken, and the island will be ours. Expended 150,000 artillery shells, 15 million rifle and machine gun shells, 90,000 rounds of mortar fire, and 125,000 hand grenades.
As Army and Marine units prepared to hammer the final piston blows on Saipan, we paused. We appeal to the civilian population to pass through our lines to freedom and dignity. Mere scores responded. We appeal to the enemy soldiers to cease their futile resistance. A handful complied. Others, like this fella, pretended to accept, then tried to kill us with a grenade. We had no recourse but to fight on. What sends this man to face death? Pride in his country, its principles, in himself as a man. What sends this exposed American against a hidden enemy? History. He walks in the footprints of Valley Forge, the Little Big Horn, Bellow Woods. What sends this man forward when every instinct says, wait? Tradition, his father's yardstick, against which he stands to be met. What sends this man through enemy fire to rescue a fallen comrade? Esprit de corps, love of his fellow Marine. What inspires this man, imprisoned by treads of the enemy tank, to render this service above and beyond? Love of country, its righteous cause, lessons learned at his mother's knee. A question abounds in the land. Is our military indoctrination too rugged? This is your son. War has brought him here. War has made him to fight. Will you have him lean and trained and fit, able to defend himself? Or will you, with softness, rob him of confidence and his best chance for survival? As a nation, we have been ferocious in battle. The enemy knew this. We had excellent intelligence on Tinian, thanks to scouting parties which went ashore, mapped the beaches, charted the tide, and reported on mines and demolitions. We also had excellent aerial photographs and some captured Japanese documents giving the size, strength, and unit numbers of the defenders. There were 7 possible assault beaches. Yellow on the east coast was where they might expect us to land. Scouting parties went ashore the night of 10-11 July. They reported obstacles, underwater mines, potholes, 25-foot cliffs on each flank, double apron barbed wire on the beach, and evidence of fortifications beyond. Orange, red, green, and blue beaches were wide, usable, and very heavily fortified. Here, the enemy expected us to strike. White Beach 1 and White Beach 2 he did not fortify. They were narrow, flanked by rough, rocky cliffs, and protected by powerful offshore current. The enemy had not planted mines, obstacles, or prepared shore positions. He calculated that only a fool would try to land there. Landings anywhere else were out of the question. The surf was too rough, and the cliffs were too high. We held many a planning conference before we decided on our procedure. On paper, it was simple. Here's how it went.
There are 2 natural elements which can wreck our planned assault: a storm or heavy ground swells. 3 days before the operation, planes ranged 1,500 miles in each direction, alert for these possibilities. Their reports are favorable. But this is the typhoon season, so cargo planes on Inuitok are alerted, capable of dropping 30 tons of supply per day, 100 tons when the airfield at Yushi Point is secured and usable. Tinian has been under constant bombardment 43 days. As Jig Day nears, it is intensified. 24,536 rounds of artillery fire will be hurled on a 24-hour basis, an average of 1 shell per minute for the next 15 days. Naval vessels fire thousands of rounds into Tinian town and other designated areas. 358 Army, Navy, and Marine planes drop 97 tons of bombs. 7 transports stand by. As the softening process draws to its close, the Marines go down the nets, enter the landing craft, begin their run toward Tinian town. Yards. 5,000. 4. 3. 2,000 yards. We are the bait. We are dangled. And they snap at the hook. Their shells rip the water, but there are no casualties. As we come about and churn back toward the transports, the Japanese reveal hidden batteries of heavy caliber guns. Their marksmanship is deadly. The USS Colorado is hit 22 times in 15 minutes. As other naval vessels rush in to cover her withdrawal, the Norman Scott is hit 6 times. But the enemy has blundered, has revealed his positions. He is stripped of concealment, and shortly, of his life. Our diversion has succeeded. No landing was planned in this area. And while this has been happening here, the real assault has hit the beaches to the northwest. 200 Marines, the spearhead of the thousands to follow, meet stiff resistance. Fighting is bitter. After the first 200 yards, fighting is brief. The enemy has 9,000 troops, which can be thrown into counterattack at any time. Our problem is to get enough men, equipment, and supplies ashore to withstand such an attempt and punch and hold a deep perimeter. White 2, 3 Amtraks are destroyed by mines. On one flank, 2 pillboxes guarded by rifle pits and machine gun positions bar the way. Other waves are moving toward the shore. We must clear the beach for their arrival. We move inward.
The Tennessee, the California, the Sigourney, and the Waller rake the flanks. The Montpelier, the New Orleans, and the Birmingham concentrate on artillery positions on Mount Lasso. On a fixed schedule ranging from 4 to 10 minutes, other waves hit, storm ashore, and move out to their forward objectives.
Toward nightfall, we take stock of our beachhead. We have expanded the width from 220 yards to 2,500 yards. Our point of deepest penetration is 1 mile from the original landings. Over 2 tiny, narrow beaches with a total width of 220 yards, we have poured scores of artillery pieces, tons of supplies, quantities of heavy equipment, bulldozers, tanks, and 15,614 officers and men. In a single day, the enemy is outnumbered, outgunned, and outsupplied on his own stronghold. His reaction is savage and well-directed. You cannot photograph the fighting and the dying of the night, but its aftermath is clearly visible with the coming of day.
Have you ever fought for your life in a night so black that the only light comes from an enemy rifle as you shoot it out muzzle to muzzle? This Marine did. Have you seen the glint on steel as you thrust and parry, bayonet to bayonet? This Marine did. Have you fought it out hand to hand, man to man, and emerged victorious? This Marine did. At 2 in the morning, several thousands of the enemy struck both flanks and our center. For 3½ hours, the night fighting raged. Then dawn, and the attacking waves broke at the same moment. In 3½ hours, the enemy had lost 1/7 of his total defense force, 1/5 of his organized infantry strength. In, around, behind, and before our positions were counted 1,241 enemy dead. Our total loss, killed and wounded, were less than 1/10 of that figure. Why? Rigid training which perfected the individual use of his weapon. Training in hand-to-hand combat and personal defense. Training which builds the confidence that you can meet and overcome anyone who comes against you. Training, any fighting man's best hope for survival in battle.
With one small exception, no local water supply is taken during our first days of conflict. The engineers have foreseen this and have set up distillation units to furnish 2 gallons of water per day for each of the thousands now ashore. The bad weather we have feared makes its appearance on Jig +4. Rough water at the white beaches breaks up the pontoon causeway. The only thing which can negotiate the landing is the DuKW. Standing by on Aniwitak, gorge their fat bellies with rations and begin their shuttle runs. During the critical period, they supply 99,000 meals incoming. Outgoing, they evacuate 1,500 wounded. After 5 days of fighting, we enter Tinian town. It appears deserted. But the streets are mined, and booby traps are everywhere. One lone Japanese bars our advance. The others have withdrawn, taking 65% of their strength into the caves, hills, and crevices of the southern tip. This will be another Saipan, unless something is done to dig them out one by one.
As the defenders withdrew and consolidated their strength, General Schmidt asked for and was given naval gunfire to dislodge, distract, shock, and destroy them. In 1 hour and 50 minutes, they threw 615 tons of destruction into the cliff area.
126 Army, Navy, and Marine planes take over. In 40 minutes, they drop 69 tons of destruction. Artillery adds another 5,000 rounds. While they are shaken, we offer honorable surrender. A captured Japanese assures full terms of the Geneva Conference. Some civilians accept. We must take the height. Tanks are brought up. Their fire pokes and probes for the hidden positions. One is hit 6 times in rapid succession. Another tank infantry team moves up. We burn away the concealing cover. Finally, it is silenced. There is a road to the top. We know it is the only practical approach. So does the enemy. A Company, 8th Marines, claws its way to the top. C Company follows to exploit the breakthrough. On August 1, 1944, Tinian is declared secure. But hundreds of Japanese are still alive in their caves and crevices. And for 5 more long months, they will snipe at the 8th Marines as the mopping up continues into the new year of 1945. Tinian has been costly. But for every man we lost, the enemy has lost 13.
is your son. Yesterday, he fought with a savagery that swept everything before him. Today, in victory, he reverts to his natural, warm impetuosity. This is your brother. Yesterday, he created a havoc of annihilation. Today, in victory, he reverts to the predictably unpredictable companion of your adolescence. This is your husband. Yesterday, he killed with a cold, deadly efficiency that wiped out the thousands of fanatical defenders. Today, in victory, he reverts to the kind, friendly, sometimes awkward man you married. These are your men, ferocious in battle, forgiving in victory. With the shocked, they are soothing. With the dazed, they are easy. To the bewildered, they give understanding. To the frightened, reassurance. To the dispossessed, they are liberal. To the maimed, they are kind. With the weak, they are strong. With the hungry, generous. With the wounded, they are compassionate. With the children, they are tender. These are your men. These are the qualities they possessed when they entered the Marine Corps. These are the qualities they bring home to you.